and welcome again to the Strange Brew podcast. My name's Jason Barnard, and we've got another fantastic discussion today, this time with the great Michael Schenker, one of the best guitarists of all time, really, known for his work in the likes of the Scorpions, UFO, Michael Schenker Group, and much more. So let's hear my chat with Michael. Michael, thank you so much for talking to me.
Oh, yes, thank you.
I think it's extra special to talk to you because you're just releasing what is an absolutely fabulous album, Don't Sell Your Soul, and I understand it's the second part in a trilogy after My Years with UFO. What links this trilogy of yours?
Yeah, like when I realized that My Years with UFO was, the anniversary was coming up, I also realized that the 50th anniversary, and then looking deeper into it, I realized that, re-releases that Phil Mock did, remasters, had no information, just the UFO and the song titles. And so I thought that would be a good opportunity to update or to re-educate fans or people, newcomers as well, and to add more information on it. And at the same time, I also realized that when people Google Michael Schenker, all they get is what they it starts in 1980. People think I am born musically in 1980, which is not true because I started in the early 70s and influenced a lot of musicians in the 70s. And so that was another reason to put MSG out there, to let people know that that's what I did starting at the 80s, not in the 70s. Also, in the middle years, I kind of disappeared from the scene and did my own records label and had my fan club and built a recording studio and did a lot of experimental music, like acoustic instruments, electric instrumentals, and all sorts of things. And I wanted to also let people know in a shortcut by making a 3-album deal, which probably eventually will be available as a 3-set. So, which was supposed to be an acoustic instrumental album or like an instrumental album, but when I started putting my guitars down, Michael Voss started to sing and write lyrics and all of that. And originally, I wanted to do it with. Actually, it was supposed to be and I just realized that. I guess in the beginning we used to call it an acoustic album. I guess that's what it is, acoustic album with Gary Barton singing and Herman Rebel playing drums. But Michael Voss was already starting to write lyrics and singing, and he did such a great job that after halfway through I said, "Oh, that's just I want to keep your vocals," and so we tuned to 432, which is apparently the vibration of the universe, and that's what Pink Floyd did with Dark Side of the Moon. So that we did that, and then I had Herman Rebel play drums, and it ended up to be now one of my favorite albums. I mean, it's just so crazy, so weird, but that's what I did. That was part of what I did in my middle years, and so the contrast between UFO, which were my developing years, which by the way, that album, My Years with UFO, could have also be called My Songs with UFO, because I picked all the songs that I wrote, which became the best of from 72 to 78. And then, letting people know, connecting with Michael Schenker Group, that's the same guy who played in My Years with UFO. And so celebrating my developing years is a very special, of course. Especially because it were my songs musically, and everything starts with music, and then the singer gets his inspiration and goes from there. So without the musical start, there wouldn't be a song. So, and basically the same guy who did the Michael Schenker Group in the 80s, and then the same guy did a lot of other stuff that people might not be aware of. So I have a chance to let people in on the whole thing. The last album, the third one, that's maybe going to be released in 26, that's going to be called Freedom of Expression. And so it's a pretty kind of unusual album and very good. Also, the MSG album, Don't Sell Your Soul, connects with my years with UFO because I rarely write lyrics, and so on this one I did because it was more like on a personal level. So don't sell your soul. Basically, the meaning of that is if you find something that is fun and makes you happy, don't give it up and get blinded by money and lose that happy place and end up in misery. Also, the words in the lyrics in that song also talks about why I did what I did and how I did it, etc. So it's all about pure self-expression, which is my mission. So that's what I do when I write my sketches, ABC for a potential song. And then when Michael Voss adds his stuff to it, like his lyrics and his vocals, then it becomes a mixture of my pure self-expression and whatever Michael brings in from however he connects to music, etc. And then you get that kind of a mixture, and that's what the Michael Schenker group, this album, is. And yeah, I guess that's in a nutshell.
Fantastic. And you've got a range of vocalists on the album. How did you choose which of these fabulous vocalists to sing on each particular
Yeah,
track?
it just happens step by step. We never really know when it happens and how it happens. Basically, we are building a house without a plan. I just bring in the sketches and that's it. And then everything is brick by brick. It's just the way we do things for the last 15 years. You never know what comes out of it. That's the fun part. So it's always in the now. We get inspired of what to do next, etc., etc. So there's no plan, no big plan that before we even start. There's just the musical sketches. And so basically, at some point, we decided for those two songs, Eye of a Storm and Sixth String, to ask Robin McCauley if he would be interested in writing lyrics and melody for those two musical compositions. And then we had Michael, actually, as always, we started him singing everything and writing lyrics for everything. Yeah, that's what we do. I'll come in after, putting down a couple of song potentials, come back in the morning and he plays to me what he did. And then I say, oh, this is fantastic or not so good, or we place it, etc. And as we do that, we kind of starting already discussing, wow, this maybe these two songs would be good for Robin. And then we go to, or we bump into like the songs that Michael would really like to keep as his melodies and vocal lyrics and stuff. And then, you got those other six songs. We asked Eric Grönwald if he would like to sing, and he said, this is my kind of rock and roll. So that was good to hear that we have him actually being 100% behind it. And then somewhere at the end, when I heard about Eric having a health issue, so my agent suggested to have a backup. They suggested a very good singer. And I asked my agent to ask Leah to make a demo of Love to Love and some of the songs on the My Years with UFO album. And he did. And I was absolutely amazed. Fantastic, fantastic vocals. And so that brought me to adding him to It's You, which is another personal song I wrote lyrics to. And he did a great job. And so, ended up to be the singer now on the My Years with UFO in America.
You've referred to My Years with UFO, and did revisiting the songs that you wrote in the group bring back memories while you were working on that album?
Well, it's in my blood. I mean, I played that for, like Phenomenon to Faucet to No Heavy Petting, Lights Out, Obsession. It was just, it was my developing years and so deeply rooted in me. And basically, that was when every year, everything got better and better and better up to 78. And then, it was time to split and do my own things and carry on with self expression. So basically, it's like it's the deepest rooted experience, especially because it was the developing years. So you have it in your blood. And when I was putting it down, it was kind of, I didn't really think, I was just playing. It just came out the way I did.
You mentioned sort of the 50 years on element as well. And on Immortal, 50 years on, you actually did a new version of In Search of the Peace of Mind. And it feels like a bit of an anthem for you.
Well, it's a very important song. It was the very first song I wrote and recorded. It ironically became the title, "In Search of Peace of Mind," which suits my life approach in general. It was very ironic and strange and important. Was basically the beginning of my self-expression. I guess it was always, since I was born in me, but consciously being aware of it, it came to the foreground with my first composition.
And Slash played live with you very recently. What is it like getting the praise from younger artists about the influence that you had on them?
Yeah, I mean, I have known Slash and Axel for a long time. And so, I mean, Axel was actually on one of the videos I did in '83. It was a song called Walk the Stage, or had two titles. What Rock Will Never Die. It was like a video on a junk yard. And I'm playing chess with Dr. Death. And there was like bands in the background on a junkyard and going crazy, and it was all like impersonators, with the exception of Flash. He was actually real. He was in real on that junkyard playing, and if you watch that video, it's really funny. I hadn't seen it for a long time. I just recently looked at it. It was funny. Now kind of looked at the people. There was a Michael Jackson impersonator and, all sorts of different bands. But the only real one, I guess the only one was Slash with his cylinder already on his head.
And what keeps you inspired? You've been making fantastic music and riffs up until Don't Sell Your Soul from the late 1960s. How do you find inspiration?
It's self-expression. That's what I love doing. I mean, I start playing tennis or football or anything. I want to figure it out myself. That's the fun part. So that really is the key thing, to be also realizing that copying other people is, for me, not the way to go, because maybe as a jump start, but the people do it already. Why should have to do it or want to do it? I want to do something that maybe people haven't done, and something that's unique, that comes from self, meaning that it's a color that nobody knows unless you release it. And that's what I find fantastic and inspiring to do.
What role did Phil Mogg play when you joined UFO in terms of encouraging your songwriting? Was he very welcoming of your music straight away?
Well, it doesn't really do anything, because it starts with the music. So the music is the motor that inspires the singer to come up with something, and so that's what happened. I come up with Doctor Doctor. I say, "Oh, I like this," and then play me the straight chords so I can figure something out. So I put down the straight chords, and then he does it. And we did it with every song I wrote, like "Love to Love," "Try Me." They all started as instrumentals, and until I showed him the chords that were behind the instrumental, and then he did his thing to it.
And who were your inspirations as a teenager? Was it the Beatles and the Stones, or was it more varied?
Yeah, all the great guitarists in the late '60s. The Beatles were maybe the exception. They didn't need to have a great guitarist in the band, because the songs were so enchanting, and I guess because I was very young when I heard the Beatles, and it was just kind of very, going in the ear like an earworm. It's just like you can sing those songs, and it was so much fun to play the songs and sing them. But other than that, I would never go to any festivals or concerts unless they had a really good guitarist in the band that I liked, and or a lead guitarist, period, to figure out if he was good or not. And that was fun part of doing. And so, of course, it was all the guys like Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, and Roy Gallagher, Johnny Winter, and Leslie West, and so many great guitarists in the late '60s. When I was 13, 14, 15, that I loved, and that was my fun part, going from show to show and discover guitarists.
And you've turned down working with some of the greatest artists in music, from the Stones to Aerosmith, Ozzy Osbourne. Was that because you wanted to follow your own path in music, or was it that it just wasn't the right fit for you?
Yeah, it's exactly what the lyric says in Don't Sell Your Soul. And so I had a vision, I was on a mission and knew what to do. And when I was approached by Ozzy, I was tempted by surprise. I was kind of tempted to do it. But last minute, I looked back in my life and went like, why did you leave UFO as they were starting to peak? I mean, there would be a contradiction. It would have been hell if I had, I would have been in misery if I had joined Ozzy Osbourne because I would have been not able to do what I ended up doing. And so that's why I'm saying you find something you're happy doing and you feel that's your place, don't leave it, get blinded by money or something else. Especially, I had all those opportunities anyway with UFO, but it was all about self-expression, not following the trend, basically a trend I was part of creating for the 80s in the 70s, and it doesn't make any sense. So, getting stuff out of me, and that was basically bubbling with creativity in all sorts of directions, and not doing it for the trend, for money and fame, but for the love of the inner reward you get in the now when you're actually doing it. So much more important than being slave. Ending up in a situation where you maybe get a lot of money, but you do something you don't want to do. It's a bad place to be in.
And when you formed the Michael Schenker group, what led you to linking up with Gary Barden?
Yeah, it was Peter Mensch who, threw me. He threw a few recordings on my bed. I was staying with him at the time for 2 years or so, and one of the tapes or cassettes that I was listening to was Gary, and he had just amazing low or mid-range bluesy voice, and I did not know what he looked like or anything. I just went like, "Wow, I love his vocals."
And from Assault Attack, you worked with Graham Bonnet. What did he add to your music?
Yeah, Graham, I don't know what happened. I mean, once, it just went like really weird because right from the beginning when we started touring with Gary, I bumped into, oh, maybe that was a little late. I can't remember exactly when, but for some reason I ended up with everything from Rainbow. I don't know how it worked, but it started with Cozy Powell. I guess Peter Mensch found him for me, and it just kind of step by step, everybody started to join Michael Schenker group. It all of a sudden I had, of course, Cozy Powell's roadie became part of my crew. Then the sound guy from Rainbow became my sound guy. And, I was introduced to Graham Bonnet by Cozy, I guess. Then the next thing before I knew it was Robert Cooksey, who was the tour master with Rainbow. And he just kept going like this. Everybody who left Rainbow started to knock on my door. And that's how I ended up with all Rainbow guys. It's very peculiar. I never really analyzed it. I just took it as it came, but never really asked any questions. But of course, looking back in my now, it's just weird.
And then you've seemed to be more productive than ever over the last 20 years, recording
Yeah,
more albums,
yeah.
writing.
Yeah, because it keeps going, because like the inner source is endless. I mean, I can write anytime on the spot. I can write something, but because I also, when I play and discover, I find gold pieces and I put them to the side and I use them when ready to make the next album.
And then over the years, the Strangers in the Night album with UFO just seems to keep increasing in its status. When did you realize the impact that record made?
I always kind of knew because I left UFO when we started to peak, and I knew because that was what I heard over and over from people anyway throughout the years that people were saying one of the best live albums ever, etc., etc. And it was the developing years of my years with an English band, British band, all the way from the beginning, basically, of my beginning. I had a bit of foreplay with the Scorpions. They had a bit of foreplay with Mick Bolton. And then we joined and we created something different than what I guess I did with the Scorpions and what they did before me, with Prince Kajuko and so on, or whatever albums they made. But we basically, as a chemistry, created what we created. And so every song, I mean, every album became a special album. It was to the next album became a special album. We all developed as we went. So basically, up to Strangers Night, Strangers in the Night, we basically ended up with the best of, because every time we make an album and carried on playing live, we would select the best songs and carried on playing them live, and then going through the six. So we basically developed a best of, collecting all the songs that we wanted to perform of each album live, and that it just happened to be that where most of the songs were my songs, or basically my musical compositions. And and they are important to me because they are part of my development. So I was very aware of Strangers in the Night being very much liked by many people. And that's a good thing. But when I looked at it, at 50 years celebration of my development and my songs, that I kind of I never really looked at it that way before, because I just looked at it when it came down to 50th anniversary. That's when I really, really realized, because I had to figure out which songs I wanted to play. And then, of course, I said, well, I want to play my songs. Even if it would have been only maybe three songs on this album, maybe I would have looked for other songs in the studio albums. But to my surprise, I don't think I have ever been aware of that most of the songs were my songs, basically. I think I looked through a microscope and discovered that when I was getting ready for my years with UFO. And that's what happens. And then connected with all the other things that people were saying about Strangers in the Night, etc., etc., it was basically another Strangers in the Night album celebrated with fans, musical fans that had been inspired by us and made it big and celebrated with them.
How much of Don't Sell Your Soul are you currently playing live?
I keep MSG strictly. I try to. We're getting offer for MSG and for my years with UFO, and what I want to do is strictly play my years with UFO. That was an exception when we did Wacken. That was an idea the record company had, which I thought was a very good idea, and so we added "Don't Sell Your Soul" at the end to announce the release of a new album and a new song, MSG song. And we have offers for MSG to headline festival in Japan, etc. And that will be strictly MSG. So that's what I want to do, is I accept offers for MSG and for UFO, and I will simultaneously tour both things.
Final question. If you had to pick one piece of music that you made out of your whole career, what would you choose?
It's impossible, because my music and development is like it's a journey through life, and it's all part of everything. Every step, every little thing leads to the next, and therefore that's how I got here, where I'm sitting right now doing an interview with you, and I'm happy with the development. So everything happens for a reason. It's all part of everything, and it brings you to where you end up. And basically, it's like reading a book. It's kind of, I can pick bits and pieces of albums or of songs that maybe I have in my memory. But I cannot tell you anything best, because I do a pure expression. It's a recreational, what you don't score. You're not the best. There is not such a thing as the best. It's a matter of taste anyway, at the end of the day. So it's more like I don't have songs. I never go in the studio with a ready song. Maybe I did with "Don't Tell Your Soul" or "It's You," because it was written in my head, and because I was starting it with a melody and lyrics together at the same time, because it was personal. But in general, like I said before, I have a ABC sketch for each potential song. Right, I put them down on a tape or whatever you want to call it, and then we go from there and we develop it. And there is not an album I never really go, oh, this is my favorite song, or this is my favorite song, because there are favorite parts in songs, and even that is hard to describe, because is one thing you hear before brings out the best of that piece. If something else would have been in front of it, it would have maybe been different. It's so hard. The way I look at things is so different that it doesn't really, you can't really hit it on the head with like naming one song.
That's great, Michael. I've loved listening back to songs across your career, especially the new album Don't Sell Your Soul, which is fantastic. Thank you again.
Oh, thank you so much.
Take care.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Strange Brew podcast. We've been around for over 15 years now, and keeping the back catalogue up means fees are increasing over time. If you're able to donate, that would be greatly appreciated via the Buy Me a Coffee button on thestrangebrew.co.uk. Thank you.